Behind every royal headline, there's a hidden truth. The world is watching The Crown once again. This is Golden Crown Insider, where royal secrets become headlines. Today, we are telling the story of the most painful decision a king has ever had to make. Not a political decision. Not a constitutional one. Not a decision about war or peace or the future of a nation. A decision about a brother. A decision that stripped a man of the only identity he had ever known. A decision that sent a formal eviction notice to someone who had lived in the same home for over 20 years. A decision that, when you understand the full weight of what it cost, reveals something about King Charles III that no coronation, no state visit, no carefully managed public appearance ever could. The decision to let his brother fall. This is the story of Charles and Andrew. Two brothers, one crown, and the moment that the king chose the institution over his own blood. Subscribe right now if you are new here. Hit that bell, because this story goes deeper than the headlines. And today, Golden Crown Insider is taking you all the way inside it. Let's start where every story about these two brothers must start. At the beginning, Charles and Andrew were never the closest of brothers. The age gap between them, Charles born in 1948, Andrew in 1960, meant they grew up in different worlds within the same palace. By the time Andrew was a child, Charles was already a young man being groomed for kingship. By the time Andrew was a teenager, Charles was already carrying the full weight of royal expectation. But they shared something that no amount of age gap could erase: blood, history. The peculiar, suffocating, extraordinary experience of growing up royal, of never being fully private, of always being watched, of understanding from childhood that your life was not entirely your own. And for decades, through marriages, through divorces, through scandals and crises, and the slow grinding work of royal life, Charles protected his brother. Quietly, privately, in the way that older brothers protect younger ones even when they shouldn't. That protection ended on October 30th, 2025. Buckingham Palace issued a statement on October 30th, 2025 that shocked even those who had been expecting it for months. His Majesty has today initiated a formal process to remove the style, titles, and honors of Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew will now be known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. His lease on Royal Lodge has, to date, provided him with legal protection to continue in residence. Formal notice has now been served to surrender the lease, and he will move to alternative private accommodation. These censures are deemed necessary, notwithstanding the fact that he continues to deny the allegations against him. IMDb read those final words again. Notwithstanding the fact that he continues to deny the allegations against him. Charles did not wait for a verdict. He did not wait for charges. He did not wait for a court to confirm what the world had been saying for years. He acted while Andrew was still proclaiming his innocence. While Andrew was still insisting that none of it was true, Charles looked at his younger brother and stripped him of everything anyway. That is not a small thing. That is a king choosing the monarchy over his family in the most public, most permanent, most devastating way imaginable. But to understand why Charles made that choice, why he moved when he did, the way he did, you need to understand the full timeline. Because this did not happen overnight. This was years in the making. Andrew stepped back from royal duties in November 2019 after a disastrous BBC New Night interview in which he attempted to rebut allegations made by Virginia Giuffre. Giuffre alleged Andrew sexually assaulted her on 3 occasions when she was 17 years old, encounters arranged by Jeffrey Epstein. Andrew denied everything. He said he had no recollection of meeting her. He said he was at a Pizza Express in Woking. He said he could not sweat due to an adrenaline condition. The public reaction was immediate and devastating. IMDb that interview, broadcast to millions, became the defining moment of Andrew's public life. Not his naval service in the Falklands. Not his decades of royal duties. Not his charity work or his trade envoy role. That interview. Those explanations. That Pizza Express. In 2022, Andrew paid millions in an out-of-court settlement after Giuffre filed a civil suit against him in New York. While he did not admit wrongdoing, he acknowledged Giuffre's suffering as a victim of sex trafficking. IMDb millions of pounds. Paid to a woman he claimed not to remember meeting. That settlement, while containing no admission of guilt, was read by the watching world as its own kind of statement. And through all of this, through the interview, Through the settlement, through the years of headlines, Charles maintained a careful distance. He was not yet king. He could not act unilaterally. The late Queen Elizabeth, who loved Andrew fiercely, who had always been closest to her second son, was still on the throne. And whatever she privately felt about what Andrew had done, she could not bring herself to deliver the final blow to the child she had always protected most. Then in September 2022, Queen Elizabeth died, and Charles became king. And the protection that Andrew had relied on for decades, the quiet maternal shield of the most powerful woman in Britain, was gone. Charles had reportedly been exploring options to remove Andrew from his Windsor residence long before he stripped his brother of prince status and evicted him from the royal estate in October 2025. He had reportedly wanted Andrew out of Royal Lodge for years. Andrew had refused every approach, every quiet suggestion, every carefully managed conversation. He had a 75-year lease on the property. He had lived there for over 20 years with his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson. And he was not going anywhere willingly. Reader's Digest. So Charles waited. He built the case. He watched the evidence accumulate. He watched the Epstein files begin their slow, devastating release. He watched Virginia Giuffre's posthumous memoir, Nobody's Girl, hit bookstores, a book in which she described 3 alleged sexual encounters with Andrew and said he acted as if he believed having sex with me was his birthright. Giuffre's brother Sky Roberts issued a statement after Charles finally acted. Today, he said, an ordinary American girl from an ordinary American family brought down a British prince with her truth and extraordinary courage. Time an ordinary American girl brought down a British prince. That sentence. In all of this story, all the legal language, all the palace statements, all the careful royal communications, that sentence cuts through everything. Because it reminds you what this story is actually about underneath the titles and the leases and the constitutional procedures. It is about a 17-year-old girl, and what she said happened to her, and the years it took for anyone with real power to take her seriously. Constitutional law expert Craig Prescott of Royal Holloway University was direct about what Charles's decision represented. He said the monarchy needed to draw the thickest line they could between Andrew and the rest of the royal family. And royal expert George Gross of King's College London added, this was a very clear statement of what had to be done to get the house in order now and also going forward for the future. It makes life easier for Prince William. Woman and home makes life easier for Prince William. That phrase reveals the strategic reality beneath the family tragedy. This was not just Charles protecting his reign. This was Charles protecting William's, clearing the ground, removing the liability, ensuring that when the crown passes to the next generation, it passes without the weight of his brother's scandal dragging it down into the earth. And then, just 3 months after the titles were stripped and the eviction notice was served, February 19, 2026 arrived. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the man formerly known as Prince Andrew, now stripped of every title he had held since birth, was arrested on his 66th birthday on suspicion of misconduct in public office. The allegation that he had forwarded classified government trade documents to Jeffrey Epstein while serving as a UK trade envoy. IMDb his birthday. Arrested on his birthday. After having his titles taken 3 months earlier. After being evicted from the home he had lived in for 2 decades. In the space of less than a year, everything that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor had built his identity around had been taken from him. The title, the home, and now his freedom for 11 hours in a police interview room. What Charles did next was perhaps the most revealing moment of his entire reign. He issued a personal statement, signed Charles R using his own name rather than issuing it through Buckingham Palace, as protocol would normally dictate. And in that statement, he referred to Andrew not as his brother, simply as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. A man, not family. A name, not a relationship. Reader's Digest, he did not call him his brother. In 73 words of careful royal language, Charles had communicated something that no amount of commentary or analysis could improve upon. Andrew was no longer someone Charles was willing to claim publicly. He was a man under investigation, subject to the law like any other man, without the protection of family or institution or crown. The law must take its course. That was all Charles said. And in saying it, he said everything. Now, and Golden Crown Insider always gives you the full picture, there is another way to read this story. A harder, more uncomfortable way. One that does not sit easily but demands to be acknowledged. Charles spent 3 years as king watching his brother's situation deteriorate. He had the power to act from the moment he took the throne. He waited. He moved cautiously. He allowed Andrew to stay in Royal Lodge through conversations and approaches and gentle pressure that Andrew repeatedly rejected. Only when the public pressure became overwhelming, only when Virginia Giuffre's posthumous memoir generated headlines that the palace could no longer absorb, did Charles finally deliver the formal blow. Was that patience? Was it kindness, a last attempt to give his brother time to do the right thing himself before being forced? Or was it something more calculated? A king managing his own reputation, waiting until the moment that acting became more advantageous than not acting, using the publication of a dead woman's memoir as political cover for a decision he had always known he would eventually have to make. The truth is probably somewhere between those two readings. Charles is not a monster. He is a man who has spent his entire life navigating impossible tensions between family and duty, between what he feels and what the institution requires, between the brother he grew up with and the king he has become. The Buckingham Palace statement that accompanied the stripping of Andrew's titles was careful to include one line that revealed the human underneath the constitutional procedure. Their Majesties wish to make clear that their thoughts and utmost sympathies have been, and will remain with, the victims and survivors of any and all forms of abuse. Hello, victims and survivors. In a statement about his own brother, Charles used a palace statement to express sympathy for the women who accused Andrew, while simultaneously removing everything that had ever protected him. That is not the act of a man who feels nothing. That is the act of a man who feels everything and has decided that feeling cannot be allowed to stand in the way of what the institution requires. Andrew is now living at Wood Farm on the Sandringham estate, the same modest cottage where Prince Philip spent his final years in quiet retirement. His annual personal allowance has been cut. His security funding has been reduced. Charles is covering the cost of the new accommodation, a last gesture of care from a king to a brother he has otherwise publicly disowned. Yahoo, that detail matters. Charles is still paying for his brother's roof. He stripped the titles. He served the eviction notice. He issued the statement that did not call Andrew his brother. And he is still making sure Andrew has somewhere to live. That contradiction, institutional coldness and private care existing simultaneously, is perhaps the most human thing about this entire story. Because it tells you that behind the king, there is still a man. A man who grew up with Andrew, who shared Christmases and summers and the peculiar loneliness of royal childhood, who remembers the person his brother was before Jeffrey Epstein, before the interview, before all of it, and who has nonetheless decided that the crown, the institution they were both born to serve, comes first. Always. Even above blood. Even above the boy he grew up with. Even above the brother who is now living in Philip's old cottage on his estate, stripped of his name, under criminal investigation, spending his birthday in a police interview room. The crown does not bend. Charles taught us that. Not with a speech. Not with a documentary. With a statement. 73 words. And the deliberate absence of one word. Brother. If this video gave you the full picture, give it a thumbs up right now. Share it with someone who needs to understand the story completely. And if you are not yet subscribed to Golden Crown Insider, do it now. Every single day, we bring you the truth behind the royal headlines. The ones that reveal what this family is truly carrying beneath the crown. This is Golden Crown Insider. And we will see you in the next one.